Yeah, man, how you doing? You good? I know you like that. I know you like that. How long you been back, man? I see the girls in the club, they getting wild for me. And all the pretty chicks all wanna smile at me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. It is August, the last day of August 2021, August 31st. I'm Brock Fleming. On the other side of the screen is my slow but awesome friend, Cariotti. Here, how you doing, buddy? Oh, hold on. I gotta bring you in. He wants to come in hard.
Yeah.
Microphone checker, swinging sword lecture, closing down the sector, supreme neck protector. Better want him, kid, Mr. Messer.
P. Diddy.
What's going on, brother?
His helmet, his Steeler helmet. Did you not just have eye black 2 seconds ago? Or am I crazy?
I did, but it was tugging at the little hairs that go underneath my nose. Every time I smile, they hurt like hell. So, yeah, we did away with the ear black or the eye black.
The Lebanese struggles, eh, bud?
Yeah, indeed. How you doing, Pally?
I'm all right. What was it? Electrical tape?
It was electrical tape. Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
I'm pumped.
Welcome back. I mean, we took a week off.
Yep.
Last week was, again, you had a scheduling conflict. I was in the middle of painting 8 different rooms in the house. We're doing a big melange, a big move. My office is now, so I'm in the basement now.
I saw that.
Yeah, I need to get stuff in the back. I just got to figure out the whole setup. So this is the first time I'm using it. This gives me an idea of where we can see from the camera angles and stuff. But also, there's a lot more room. So, when you are ready, or Mikey, Curtis, whoever, or all 4 of us can come here and do it together in person.
I like it.
Right? And that way, it's not going upstairs to the bedrooms and stuff like that. Anyway, so, So we took the week off. We're good to go. And hopefully this works out as well as we hope it does.
Yeah, man. But we got a pigskin show lined up for everybody. But before we do that, I want to mention the Jays. They're staying relevant. George Springer's back. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They had a really rough road trip. But I find Springer in the lineup just brings more confidence to Vladdy. I mean, just look at last night. 2 home runs. Springer's back in the lineup. I didn't see the game, but did Springer play well? Did he get any hits? I think just his presence in the lineup helps Vladdy. What do you think about that?
Springer in the lineup helps everybody.
Yeah.
I was pumped. I did not watch the game live. I did watch my favorite show in the mornings, which is Jason 30, which is perfect.
Isn't that the best thing ever?
It really is. And now they started doing that with other sports too. So I'm pumped to see where they go with it, because anything that can be condensed into half an hour and just give me the relevance, relevant plays and stuff is great. That being said, Springer did get a hit. He was on base. I think he was DHing because they had Dyson in center field.
Yeah.
Ease him into it, just get his bat in the lineup. But ultimately, they played very well. I mean, Vladdy's second home run, I don't even think it got above 100 feet off the ground. It was just a liner. And it was, as soon as it hit the bat, you knew it was gone. So I think that brings a little bit more explosiveness to the team. Now, there was a play I wanted to bring up. It was, who was it? Hernandez, I believe, who hit, ended up being a triple. But Bichette was rounding third, and Rivera was full on, like no issues, clear stop, 2 hands up in the air. And Bichette said, "Screw it, I'm running through your signal," and he was safe at home. And the throw came in, it was offline, and again, unless it was a perfect throw, he wouldn't have been caught. And these are professionals, so you think, oh, well, they're going to get it. Well, no, they didn't. He pushed it, he got in safe, and again, I appreciate the aggressiveness. For the record, Mike and I did go back to that play, and we watched the video over and over in slow motion. It was the play in question that you and I had a disagreement about was the bases loaded out. Went to the first baseman, and the guy from third tagged and ran. Now, Mike brings up valid points. He still is on your side of not sending the runner. But also when I watched it, I'm like, the guy from first was further from first than what I thought he was. And even then he caught the ball over his shoulder. And it was one of those, when you're running a certain direction, in order to stop and throw, like there's still 2 or 3 quick steps you got to take and throw over.
Yep.
So ultimately the first baseman made an amazing play, an amazing throw to the catcher. I'm still sending him 99% of the time, and then future games after that one, we see guys like Vladdy are up in a situation where we need them to get a hit and win the game. And I watch the umpires dictate that at bat by having something that's a little outside, call it a strike, and either it's in their head and now they're thrown off for the rest of it, or it's a called strike 3. Very anticlimactic. I'd rather push the play. That's just my opinion. And I respect yours as well for the most part, except for that helmet. And then the Jays, we'll see what happens. You got your Steeler helmet on, your Steeler jersey on, because it is NFL week is starting up very soon. I didn't have an NFL jersey, so I wore my Florida Gators Emmitt Smith. So the best running back, I guess, arguably in history of the NFL, at least record-wise, from one of the best schools. And the NCAA starts this weekend as well. So,
I saw a cool list the other day. It was the each team's top running back in terms of yardage.
Yeah.
And then they not only did they give each team's top running back in terms of yardage, but then they categorized them by where they rank in the NFL. And I don't, and again, I'm super biased, but I don't think Franco Harris gets nearly the amount of love he deserves. He's 5th on the list. And nobody talks about Franco Harris in terms of the top 10 great runners. There's a lot of other names, LaDainian Tomlinson and, obviously Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton. All deserve it, right? Like Barry Sanders. I get it.
And Sanders.
But like
Thurman Thomas.
Thurman Thomas, yeah. But Franco has 4 Super Bowl rings in a 6-year span, and he's 5th on the list all time in rushing yards. Like I don't... and I didn't grow up watching him. That was an infant when he was sort of the last part of their last 2 Super Bowls. I saw the tail end of his career when he got traded to Seattle and had one dismal year there. But you watch and back in the 70s, it was all running game. Like it was run first, pass second. I mean, the guy took a beating. And he still ended up where he is. And teams would load up the box. You talk about loading up the box. They'd have 9 guys in the box, and he still ran for 100 yards a game. So anyway, again, it's a bias thing, because I'm a Steeler fan, obviously. But some of those guys in the 70s, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve. How hard the game was actually back then to play. With the clutching and the grabbing and the some of the players back then. The 70s were just a great time to watch football. It was a growing sport. It was just, and what we see now is a product of their hard work, I think.
All right, there you have it. I'm not going to sit here and jump on the Franco Harris train. I mean, the guy feels the ground ball better than any football player I've ever seen in my life. Turn that into 6 and is a miracle. Anyway, you can take the helmet off at any point you want, because it seems a little uncomfortable. You keep playing with it.
My neck's getting sore. It's heavy. It's like it's not like a plastic one. It's, Yeah.
Oh, speaking of football season starting. College football started last week. The real week is this one. At the end of the show, I'll go over the weekend. There are some killer matchups to watch starting on Thursday. NFL starts in, 2 weeks? I think it's not this weekend. Next Thursday?
Next Thursday, yeah. Whatever the 9th, whatever that Thursday is. It's the Bucks and Cowboys.
Yeah, so that's next week.
Yep.
And a new football career is going to be launched Sunday afternoon at 1:30 p.m. at Darcy McGee High School Field. My nephew Kane, Curtis Fleming's son Kane, is lacing them up and putting the pads on, and
for the garnet and gold
compete for the they don't have a football team anymore. They have a great field, no football team. The Gatineau Vikings, so of the NCAFA League in Ottawa. Kane is playing with, I think it's the Pee-wees, I guess is what it is. But he is like the sort of a H-back, fullback, tight end sort of mishmash. He's starting to actually throw his weight around, and he's right into it. We were at So my grandmother's funeral was last weekend, and we're at the reception, and Curtis is showing me the playbook on his phone. I start showing the Kane, say, "Do you know what you're doing on this play?" He's like, "Yeah." And I start saying, "Do you know what your offensive linemen are doing on this play?" And he's like, "Well, they're kind of blocking." Anyway, so I start going into it a bit, and Ange rolls her eyes, and she's like, "Could you leave the kid alone? Like, just let him enjoy it." And then Kane, speaks up, and he's like, "I want to know." He's asking me questions, and she's like, "All right." If he's right into it, she kind of backs off, but he is right into it. So again, I'm excited, and the kid might have found his niche. I think he, once he take the skates off, like he can start throwing his weight around pretty good.
Sure.
So anyway, I'm pumped for Sunday to see him. And
is that this Sunday?
That's this Sunday, 1:30.
I might have to make my way out there, Pally.
Do it.
I might have to make my way out there. That's my alma mater. I got to represent.
Well,
it's funny you say that.
It's not the Darcy, but it's on the field.
It's on Darcy's field with the garnet and gold is the color of the. I think they have a nice scoreboard there. I'll get some good feels. It's not the same, obviously, but it's funny you say that. When I got my first playbook in grade, whatever my first year for playing football was, grade 10, it came in a little duotang, but it was like 20 pages of offense and then 20 pages of defense, and the plays were very simplistic. But I remember being so pumped up about it. And I used to have this old football game called Playmaker Football for the old Mac. It's an old Macintosh, but the game was ahead of its time. You created all your own plays. You created everything for each person, including the lineman. Run block, pass block, go this way. It was maybe the best game I've ever played. It was so cool. And all I did was I plopped in my playbook plays into the created team that I had made. So I could understand the kids' youthful exuberance for football. It's exciting. You got a playbook, man. You got like plays. That's my assignment. It's cool. Super cool.
It's, again, football is a different beast. Like you don't get playbooks when you're playing hockey. You don't get playbooks when you're playing baseball.
It's read and react.
It's
typically.
It's a more reactive type thing.
Yeah.
And football, hey, you get much more scripted in terms of what you're doing. So
100%
aspect is a lot of fun. So yeah, confirm NFL starts September 9th.
You know what's not a lot of fun?
What's that?
This helmet.
Ask you. So
how do they wear that for an hour?
Well, remember, we're going back. We talked about how long it took me to fit you in a helmet for the GGs, because I think you wore that helmet right now longer than you did for that one.
I did.
I quit.
I'm out of here.
All right. We got an NFL intro. Do we still have that thing? If we do, then you can throw that on, and let's get on with some pigskin talk. You're going to lead it. It's that kind of gets you pumped. Did you have different pair of headphones under the helmet? It's so elaborate. Good on you. Good on you.
Hey, I got through 13 minutes and 13 seconds with that thing, so I'm pretty happy about it. It's longer than I expected.
Kudos. Yeah.
All right, Thank you very much. All right, Pigskin Show, baby. I'm pumped about the NFL this year. Obviously, I'm a Steelers fan. Knowing that it's Ben Roethlisberger's probably his last year, who knows? I've been having great conversations with Lauren Goldenberg, Big Ben's personal trainer. He's got me pumped because he's excited. So we'll see what happens. But we'll talk about the AFC North in a little bit. I want to start with, I would say, everybody's pick to win the AFC, including Chris Berman, who came out this week and said the sky is the limit for the Buffalo Bills.
The
Buffalo Bills, and the Buffalo Bills traded a depth guy. I think it was yesterday on the defensive line. I think his name was Daryl Johnson.
Okay.
But apparently he's a good player, but they're so deep at that position that they could afford to just trade him to Carolina. So, I mean, it's pretty scary how deep they are. I am curious to see how they do at wide receiver with Cole Beasley and some of the nonsense he's been through over the preseason. I think their acquisition was Emmanuel Sanders. Isaiah McKenzie's coming off a bit of an injury in the preseason. Obviously, they have Diggs, who ranks third in the NFL in receivers in a poll. The tight end situation is still the same. I mean, I don't know if they've really improved there, but I do think They have the offensive line and quarterback and wide receivers to be the best team in the AFC.
The best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I think there could be the very best team in the AFC. They're well rounded. I'm still not sold on their run game, but in today's NFL, you don't necessarily need a 1,000-yard back. You could survive with 2 400-yard backs, and as long as they can catch from the backfield and be that Swiss Army knife, I think you can get away with that. And that's what they have. But if we're looking at the AFC East, Brock, the Bills, Finns, Pats, and Jets. I mean, do the Finns, Pats, and Jets have a chance at this thing?
The Pats always have a chance.
Let's talk about the Pats.
Yeah, I have them coming in as a wild card in the playoffs.
The Pats?
I have the Pats getting a wild card spot. I think Mac Jones, like I've said before during the draft, Mac Jones is probably the best fit for a quarterback and a system. And I think now, for those who haven't heard yet, Cam Newton was released today. I think it was today.
Yep.
So basically solidifying that Mac Jones is going to be the starter for Belichick. He likes those milk bag white guys, and he's. I honestly, I just think Mac Jones is the perfect fit for the Patriots, and then add in that Stevenson running back that they have, and so they have a 3-headed monster back there. Their defense, coming back healthy for the most part. Stephen Gilmore, I think, is out until week 7, which is going to hurt. But anyway, I think the Pats are going to be much improved this season and likely get in as a wild card. Now, the Jets and the Finns, the Jets are going to probably be the worst in the AFC still, in my opinion. Miami's one of those, just not sure. I'm not confident enough to say, I think they're going to sneak into the playoffs and make that jump. There's a lot of uncertainty around Tua. Waddell is a great addition. The familiarity there between the two is going to be really good. Is that enough? Basically is where they're going to go. I don't know. It's really tough from a Miami standpoint for me to say one way or the other, but I don't have them making the playoffs this year still.
So I'll go back to the Bills. And I actually think the Bills, the first 3 to 4 games is going to be vital for the rest of their season. If they go 2-2, 1-3, which I doubt they'll be, but if they go 2-2 and that seed of doubt is planted and the confidence that level that they've been playing at the last year and a half starts to go back down, I think we see the Pats have a chance to win that division. It's all going to depend on how the Bills start. If they start at 3-1, then I do see them just carrying that momentum all the way through and being a 12-4, 13-3 team. I really do see that. That's a good team in Buffalo, well coached. But you make excellent point about the Pats. That team was a 7-9 team last year with virtually nobody. Zero. They bring their whole defense back. They bring Mac Jones, who I actually I'm having nightmares now thinking about it, because if you think about Tom Brady's first year. He was like this out of shape, wrangly kid who was drafted in like the 7th round and had no business being in the NFL. He comes in, and now Mac Jones, different pedigree, right? He coming from a big school, but same kind of feel, the same kind of cockiness, like, hey, I'll show them. And if anybody could make a quarterback into a quarterback, it's Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. So, and like you say, he's already good.
Yeah, the only thing Mac Jones has that's kind of going against him that Brady didn't have is time. Brady came in, he was behind Bledsoe, didn't have that pressure of taking on that role. That being said, I think Mac Jones is a guy who isn't afraid of that.
Yeah.
A Nick Saban coached kid, is
going to be ready,
prepared, and is going to be ready. Exactly.
Yeah. So I see I'm with you there. I think the Bills win the division. I think the Pats are the other team that have an opportunity to make the wild card. That could easily be vice versa. No offense, Bills fans. That could easily be vice versa. The Finns,
Josh Allen.
I think the Finns go backwards.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey, your prediction with the Finns, like I said, nothing is screaming that this is going to be the year they turn that around. But to reiterate from the Bills standpoint, it really is. Again, I've had I don't want to say doubts. I've had my hesitations on crowning Josh Allen to be this great quarterback without a long proven track record. And and I just feel last year was very good.
Hmm.
I would not be surprised if it did take a step back. Now, even a step back, if the rest of the offense is clicking better, then I still think the Bills are a dominant team because he had such a good year last year. I just don't see it being a Josh Allen carried offense. If they're going to be successful, they need to make sure that their running game is moving, that they do spread the ball around a bit more than to Diggs and really engage Sanders and those kind of things. But Josh Allen is going to be the make or break. Big contract just signed, is that chip gone? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where is that mental state? And I think the first game against Pittsburgh is going to be a clear indication of where they're going. And you said win, great. They're on a roll. Lose, then maybe
that's seeded out.
Knows.
Yep, seeded out. It'll make or break their season. 2-2, we'll see. 3-1, I think they'll roll to the playoffs. I do want to say one thing about the Jets. I think they're going to be better than people expected. They had a rash of injuries during the preseason. I think they lost 3 guys to ACLs, big name guys who they brought in. But I think the offense is going to be a little bit better than anticipated. So we'll see. Do they make the playoffs? No chance. Do the Finns make the playoffs? I don't think so. So we're on board.
Watch. Zach
Wilson's going to be fun to watch.
I think they just traded away their tight end Herndon, who I thought
Chris
had
Herndon,
a lot of potential, and they just traded him to the Minnesota Vikings. So he's a guy that, if you're in fantasy leagues and you're short tight ends, or you're picking 12th and you're not sure who to grab, or in the second round, whatever,
have a look at him.
Flyer on. Yep.
So moving on to the AFC West, arguably for me, the might be one of the more competitive. Love the jersey, Pep. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a new layout for those comments. So if you do accept the StreamYard terms, then I guess your picture would show up there too. Anyway,
I like it. Trevor Boyd, boy. All right, moving on to the AFC West. I think this division is going to be uber competitive. The Chargers came on late last year. Obviously, got a big stud at quarterback. Do they have enough on the offensive line? I don't know. The Raiders. Again, the offensive line, it was kind of a puzzling first-round draft pick. He kind of came out of nowhere. They anticipated the Raiders picking somebody else. They picked that guy, left tackle, I believe. Then I do like the Broncos. Teddy Bridgewater, Jerry Jeudy's going to break out this year. He's going to be the breakout, most improved player of the year. The Broncos are going to make some noise. That's a good defense. Von Miller's back. It's going to increase the morale on the defensive end. But then you got the Chiefs. Can anybody, Brock, hang with the Chiefs in that division?
No, I have them winning that division. I'm curious to see, when I talk about Miami, that's a field talent limitations. The Raiders, I find, have a lot of on paper quality individuals.
Waller's one of the best tight ends in the NFL.
Yeah. Like they got Henry Riggs. Is it Riggs? Riggs?
Ruggs.
Like, will take the top off of defense in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Like, there are pieces there that are exciting. This is their first season in Vegas. And if the Vegas Golden Knights have taught you anything, is that the home field advantage in Vegas for any teams that are traveling to Vegas and saying, they're going to be there for a couple days before the game and whatever, it is a trap game for a lot of those teams. So I expect their home record to be pretty good, and who knows what happens there. But ultimately, the Chiefs will come out on top of that division, and I actually have the Chargers getting in as a wild card as well.
Interesting. Let me tell you about. So this is the Raiders. To be specific, it's the Raiders' second year in Vegas, first year with fans. Is that what you meant?
Is it the second year?
Yeah, they played in that, and they played in their dome last year. But this is their first year with fans.
That does,
the city being reopened, I think is what you were getting at for sure.
Yeah.
When you make a great point, if they can
no fans and the city's not open, that's not Vegas. That's just
a stadium.
Yeah.
But if you like you say, if they go like 7-1 at home, 6-2 at home, and go 500 on the road, there's your 10-6 record, and there's a playoff berth. So you and I have always talked about, these teams have to build from the inside out, and the Raiders don't. They have always built from the outside in and spent big money on free agents on their offensive and defensive lines, and they continue to do that. Although they dismantled their whole offensive line. They released all those veteran guys and drafted, went young. Can they protect Carr?
None of them were playing up to the contracts that they signed with them.
Absolutely. But they wasted a lot of money the last couple of years.
That is a pattern, especially when you have linemen that come from like the Patriots. And you say, okay, I can be a great lineman with the Patriots because I only have to block for 2.5 seconds. Brady gets the ball out. So yeah, my stats, I have no sacks. I have no whatever. Fine. Then they go to Vegas, sign big deals because of their stats and their success rate in terms of keeping people off the quarterback.
Yep.
But now you got Carr, who's running around for his life or not making the reads as quick. The offensive scheme is like, hey, let's get Ruggs over the top for 50 yards or Waller down the seam. These are 3.5, 4-second plays, and these guys are not holding up to it. So they're not worth the $50 million a year, whatever they were getting. So they get released. And I think one of them's back in New England. I think
you're right. Well, I think the Raiders just are will come apart at the seams, and it'll be a year where they make a call on Derek Carr, whether he's the quarterback. This is his make or break year. I mean, they can't keep. This is what, his 3rd or 4th season. So I see the Raiders dismantling. I think they're going to go like less than 500. I see the Chargers. Keenan Allen can't stay healthy. I mean, he comes out like gangbusters, but by the 3 quarters of the season, he's done. Like, he's hurt. He's playing on one leg, it's been like that for the last 4 or 5 seasons. I don't think the Chargers.
Eckler's kind of a guy who gets banged up pretty easily too.
Yeah, these are guys they're relying on, and they lost Hunter Henry, if I'm not mistaken, right? They lost some of their tight ends, so
yeah,
like there's some issues there. I don't see the Chargers being as good as people think they might be, despite the fact that Herbert looks like the real deal. To me, it's the Broncos who are going to make some noise. Now, Teddy, my man, my boy, Teddy Bridgewater, I thought last year Carolina would be at least 500. I thought they would make a push with a good defense and a good solid offensive line, and they didn't. Was that on Teddy? I don't know. I didn't think they had a ton of talent. McCaffrey got hurt, and that was that. But in Denver, there's a good, solid scheme. You talk about organizational philosophies. The Broncos have always been a run-first, zone-blocking scheme, get big chunks of yards on the ground. I like that team. I like Teddy's fit there. I really do. Do they win the division? I think it's the Chiefs, and I think the Broncos are the team that could maybe vie for a wild card. I think the Raiders and Chargers are out of it. All right, moving on to the AFC South, maybe the most boring division in all of football. It really is. I have I literally have no interest in any of these teams at all, and I never do every year. But if there's one team that kind of resembles the old 90s Steelers, it's the Tennessee Titans. Man, they are a team after my own heart. I like their coach, Mike Vrabel, a former Steeler. I like the philosophy, run first. I like the quarterback. He protects the ball. He doesn't throw it away. He does just enough. Sometimes he does more than just enough. I like the Titans team, and I like the fact that they brought Julio Jones in, who is an incredible player. He and Matt Ryan are like second on the list of quarterback receiver duos in terms of yardage.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, I mean, the Titans definitely improved. They've got a good offensive line, and of course, they got the horse, the man.
Who can't be any more happy to have a guy like Julio Jones and say, you know what? Now we got Julio and A.J. Brown making defenses pay attention.
Oh,
and what does that do for him? That opens up lanes. His offensive line, led by Taylor Lewan, who's one of my favorite linemen to watch, is right up there in terms of best units in the NFL. So, it's the recipe is there for success. Can their defense play to where they need to in the big games? That'll be the telling point. But I think the offensive coordinator has everything in front of him to be one of the best offenses in the league.
Yeah.
And I think that the pressure, and it's not a workhorse on Henry anymore. I think he's going to have a lot more openings. He's not going to have to rush it as many times. So hopefully he's a bit fresher. He's just not going to be, he's not going to need to make these huge throws. He's got 2 quality receivers, again, who can't demand double teams all the time, because if you do, then you have Henry coming right downhill. It's just going to be extremely hard to defend against them.
To me, their defense is not good enough for their offense to not be a ball dominant offense. They need to milk the clock because I don't think they have the horses on defense to be able to get into a run and shoot type style with like a team like the Chiefs. So, if they can get a little bit of defense, they've got the offense to be a ball control offense, kill the clock. Old school, baby. I love the Titans, man. I'm a big fan of the Titans.
They're going to be deadly when they have the lead.
So here's before we get to the Colts, I want to ask you who. I think two of these teams in this division will vie for the worst team in the NFL, the Jags or the Texans. Now, who do you got finishing dead last? Because I have the Texans. Like, I might to dead last in the NFL.
In the NFL?
Yeah. I don't see a worse team.
The Texans is a good is quite good. I still have the Jets from the AFC standpoint.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I don't have the Panthers doing very well either in the NFC.
You know what? The Panthers are well coached, and I think Sam Darnold. You called it. I think a change of scenery is going to do him good. They've got Samuel on the outside with Robbie Anderson, speedster from
the Jets.
Yeah, so I think they got enough to make some noise in that division, but we'll get there in the next half of the show. The Colts
should be hands down. They're the ones that have the most issues, and generally teams that have a lot of issues are the ones that don't perform on the field. You lose a J.J. Watt. You have a Deshaun Watson who's 1 foot out the door and questionable as to where he's going, and all these different rumors and litigations off the field.
A lot of sexy time in his offseason.
You've lost, Hopkins the year before. They're decimated. Like there's just nothing there that is really appealing. So I think the Texans is probably the safest bet for a worse team.
Yeah. I think they should go back to being the Houston Oilers. Go back to that teal color and start over, or whatever, the baby blue. Start over. I mean, it's a disaster right there. I think the Jags are going to be up there with the worst teams. I saw a couple of their games in the preseason, and I was thoroughly unimpressed with Lawrence. I know he had a good last game, but I mean, really, who was he playing against? I wasn't a fan of the Gardner Minshew trade. I thought they should have kept him around. Yes, he was a late round pick. Yes, he doesn't have a ton of success, but he's a guy. He's good insurance. And if Lawrence struggles, Philadelphia for a 6th round pick. So
who's Lawrence's backup?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I thought Minshew would be a perfect backup. If things go sideways, you go back to the mullet, and at least you keep the fans in the stands. Right now, I couldn't tell you who their backup is.
Mike, if you know who his backup is, let us know.
Yeah.
So whatever. Any team that cuts Tim Tebow, warranted or not, doesn't come back very well. So
I don't like that move. I know people say I didn't play well at tight end. You know what? You could use him in other ways. You could play fullback. You could do like an option pass. I mean, guy can throw. I mean, he's a character guy. Like, you keep a guy around like that for me, if you're asking me,
Honestly, I thought they were going to keep him, considering how much effort they put into not addressing Tebow stuff. Like, really, like downplaying Tebow mania. Wasn't a big circus. They weren't addressing it all the time. He was very much kind of in the background, and they were doing their best to do that.
Yeah,
which to me, I thought would be more indicative of him sticking around to say, you know what, like, we're trying to make sure that he's just part of the team. He's not a distraction for anybody. I also thought, the distraction from Trevor Lawrence would be good, to try and take some heat off of him. A creative, offensive-minded coach like Urban Meyer, who essentially, perfected the spread we see in college football now. Stuff like that, you just think, okay, let's go. But it is what it is. Yeah, there's one clip there where he didn't block very well. That being said, the guy he was blocking hopefully got cut, because that was a piss poor effort too. Again, whatever. It is what it is. So the Jags will finish dead last.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Jags-Texans race for the bottom, race for the basement. I think the Titans win that division. I don't think any other team even sniffs the playoffs. I mean, the Colts should have been – we should be talking about the Colts. But if without Carson Wentz, without a bona fide quarterback, I mean, Andrew Luck, if you're thinking about a comeback, now's the time. You got a team that's ready-made. T.Y. Hilton, concerning news about his neck. He's got 2 discs in his neck that are keeping him from playing the first 4 weeks of the season. Fantasy footballers, he's a fantasy football guy, right? He brings you a lot of points.
Multiple years, and he's always hurt.
Yeah, well, that doesn't bode well for the Colts. So I think the AFC South is the Titans, and then everybody else is just going to be looking up. And I'm a Frank Reich guy. I like Frank Reich. I like what he's done. They've got a good O-line. They've got an amazing defense. That defense alone should win them a couple of games. I just don't think they can hang.
Their offensive line is right up there to a point where I almost looked at getting a Quentin Nelson jersey, who Notre Dame product, and I would be the first time probably in my life that I would ever support a Notre Dame product.
So the Houston Texans backup is C.J. Beathard, former 49er, I think he played somewhere else.
Jaguars.
Yeah. Oh, Jacksonville Jaguars backup. So, that's not good. Moving on to the final division in the AFC, one that's close to my heart, one that's going to be super competitive, one that could see 3 or 4 teams in the playoffs easily, kind of like last year. We got the Steelers, Bengals, Browns, and Ravens. Let me start with the Bengals, Brock. Joe Burrow barely played in the preseason. I think he took 1 snap, got a standing ovation from his hometown crowd, and then that was it for him. Can the Bengals hang with these guys?
No, not yet. I think Burrows is the real deal. Like, I think he brings a good chunk to the table. I don't think their offensive line is anywhere near where it needs to be to give them that protection. I don't think their defense is quite at that level either. Again, I think they make strides in advancement, provided that Burrow stays healthy. They picked up Jamar Chase, who he's familiar with, apparently also butterfingers lately, like just dropping balls left, right, and center. So that's not great. But that being said, he is a baller. We've seen him play at LSU. Like, the kid can play. So it's just a matter of what kind of time is Burrow's going to have. But they're just in a division. If they were in the South, I think, hey, maybe they
wild card,
maybe maybe a wild card. But in this North, they're going to finish last in the North.
There's talent there from last year. Unfortunately, when Burrow got hurt, things went sideways, obviously. But T. Higgins is a legit player. I've always liked Mixon in the backfield. He's a load. They're going to miss Bernard. I think Bernard is in Tampa now. They're going to miss him, that change of pace guy. But Mixon can handle. He can be the bell cow. Yep. Yeah. So they've got pieces there, but like you say, it's that. It's that offensive and defensive line that they don't have. They don't have anymore. Geno Atkins is not the player he once was. Nope. So they're going to have issues on the lines.
Lap is gone.
Yeah. So it's definitely a project right now. So I see the Bengals finishing last. Before I talk about Browns and Steelers, I want to talk of Ravens. They lost J.K. Dobbins for the year. Huge loss, after losing Mark Ingram in free agency. So now they're down to Gus Edwards, who is a good back, but I like Gus Edwards, big guy. You're a Gus Edwards fan?
I am this year. Fantasy football, salary cap, dynasty. I had to cut a bunch of people and get down to it. And
did we have the draft? We didn't have the draft yet, did we?
This is a different one.
Okay.
We don't have any salaries to deal with ours. Gus Edwards was one of the guys who were like, "How do we just get rid of him? It's $3 or something." I'm like, "No, let's keep him." You never know with Dobbins. Not specifically Dobbins, but then when he went down, I was like, Gus Edwards is the man right now. I got the starting for $3.
Yeah.
So I got him and Cook going this year. Anyway, I don't wish injury on anybody. But if it happens and Gus Edwards is on my roster and he gets in the starting spot, then kudos for us for keeping him. But it's a huge loss. I don't even know how effective Gus Edwards is going to be honest. He's nowhere near the talent that Dobbins is. So I think from that standpoint, I actually had that as one of my questions. I wanted to see what you thought and how big of an effect it was going to have on the Ravens this season. And does it change where you think they're going to finish?
Absolutely. In fact, when when they had that three-headed monster the one year where they were running over everybody with Ingram and Gus Edwards and Dobbins. I mean, they were throwing everybody at you. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson can run. It was an offense to be reckoned with. They've lost half of that offensive line, some to injuries, most to trade. Now they're down to Gus Edwards, and I don't know who their backup running backs are. Mark Ingram's gone. Obviously, Dobbins is hurt. I don't think Jackson can do it all. I think teams are starting to figure him out. I know he came out a couple weeks ago and says the NFL hasn't figured me out yet. Trust me, they're saying they have and they haven't. Listen, dude, you haven't won a playoff game yet, okay? And you've looked awful in losing. So relax. You've had good. I'm going to give the guy credit where credit's due. He's an amazing talent. He's yet to prove that he could beat teams with his arm. So the Ravens are going to take a step back. They lost a lot of guys this offseason. And they didn't replace them with they didn't replace every guy they lost. They normally do. When the Ravens lose one guy on defense, they immediately replace him with somebody of equal talent or better. That's what they've done for the last 20 years. They didn't do that this year. We're going to see the Ravens take a step back. I don't think they make the playoffs. The Browns are the team that really look good. We talk about offensive lines. They might have the best offensive line in the NFL. Their continuity from being together for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Mix that with good coaching.
Top three.
Mix that with guys whose running style makes these offensive lines look good. With those two running backs in the backfield, they're north-south runners, right? So you just get a little bit of a push and they'll do the rest. I mean, that's a good team in Cleveland. My concern with Cleveland is can they keep it together? They got guys like Beckham who've got big egos, and Njoku wanted to trade last year because he wasn't getting the ball enough. Like when you got ego guys like that, and the Steelers, we'll talk about the Steelers in a minute. That's going to be the biggest thing with Cleveland. If things go sideways for a couple of games, can they keep it together? Can they keep it in-house, or will they go to the media or Twitter or whatever and start bashing each other? Cleveland's going to be their own worst enemy.
OBJ is going to dictate
their success.
How this team, I don't want to say their success 100%.
Press the horn.
But how he approaches this season and his role on the team is going to dictate how well they do. And I think
couldn't agree more.
We've seen what happens when he's not in the lineup. I think it should be an eye-opening thing for him to see what the team is. And now you got to come in and you have to adapt to the team that was successful. How do you fit into that team? You're no longer the OBJ that just got traded to the worst team in the NFL and you're expecting to be treated as such. Now you're on a team that is competing, that has competed, and was just about to make some real big playoff strides without you. They don't need you anymore.
They destroyed Pittsburgh without him.
Yeah.
Destroyed him.
He needs the Browns. And if he takes it that way and goes about it, otherwise it's going to be probably like an Antonio Brown type situation that Pittsburgh had for a little while. And you're dealing with that kind of crap that can sour a locker room very quickly. And that's the worst thing that the Browns can have happen to them if they allow it. But I would hope that if he doesn't buy into it, then management will shop him and move him very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go the whole season.
I like how Cleveland's built. They're built to win. They've got a running game. You know, they play in Cleveland. They're going to have some bet. I mean, geez, there were 3 or 4 games in Cleveland consecutive last year that were awful weather. They're built to play in this stuff. Baker Mayfield throws a tight ball. He can throw a tight ball in poor weather. I mean, that's a team that's built to win in any kind of. You want to play run and gun? We'll play run and gun. We've got the arms. We've got the weapons. You want to play grind it out? It's snowing, raining, whatever in Cleveland. We got the weapons. It's a nice team. They're built well. They're built a lot like the Titans. Those types of styles. They might not be in vogue, but they're definitely successful. Which leads me to my last team in the AFC. And I know we're
running out of time. Let's move on to the NFC.
You know what? We're not moving on to the NFC, but we're gonna go overtime. I think you and I anticipated going a little bit longer today, but I'm gonna talk about the Steelers because they are probably the most talked about team in this division this offseason with Ben Roethlisberger unsure they're going to come back. Chase Claypool got into a fight with Minkah Fitzpatrick today in practice, who I think Claypool's a bit more of a diva than we think he is. He's not the choir boy. I think I'm starting to lose my. He got me excited last year, and I'm starting to lose my enthusiasm for him. Just a hunch. It's just a hunch. You don't get into a fight with Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's like top 10 player in the NFL. He's your defensive captain. I mean, smarten up. Anyway, all that to say, I think the Steelers are definitely overrated on the outside. It's gonna be up to that revamped offensive line. Who Brock? They look good. They were trucking people. They had Big Dan Moore out of Texas A&M, who's not going to start, but he definitely looked good this offseason. Trey Turner is going to be the comeback player of the year, coming back from an awful season in Los Angeles, but he was a Pro Bowler in Carolina. Their center position is still a little up for grabs, with Kendrick Green, but Kevin Dodson had a good last couple of preseason games, really good. And their left and right tackle, Zach Banner, is a human house. I mean, I think we're going to see that running game. Najee Harris is going to be the rookie of the year, in my opinion. It's the receivers that really worry me. They're super overrated. They really are. Deontay Johnson, does he have the skill to be a top 5 receiver? Absolutely. He runs routes like Antonio Brown, but he's got the dropsies, and he showed some more dropsies in the preseason. I'm not a fan of Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's too immature. And James Washington, who may have requested a trade and keeps dodging the question. So Big Ben has to bring the core group of wide receivers together and understand, hey, we got a chance to be really good here. We got Pat Freiermuth, who we just drafted. He's going to be a really, really good tight end. Can Ben keep it together? Veteran defense, good offensive line. Now they got a run game. They were 11-0 last year before they hit the skids. Brock, can the Steelers keep it together this year?
Well, I did choose the Jets, I think, from an AFC standpoint, and Texans to be sort of dead last. The Steelers are right in that mix. All right, relax.
Steelers are right in that mix. I was about to hang up.
Who's the tight end they got? Who's the one
Pat
they dropped?
Freiermuth.
Where's he from?
Penn State. He had a really good preseason. Great hands. I think he was like he averaged 2 touchdowns a game in the preseason in the red zone.
The Steelers strike me as a team that would benefit greatly from an elite style tight end, like
absolutely
Pitts, Kelsey, just the way that their offense is built. And I think that would alleviate a lot of pressure from the receiving core that they have, because there is some talent there. They're not the perennial all-stars kind of thing, but there's some talent there. That being said, I think the Steelers are, well, they make the playoffs. I think they don't finish first in the division. I think they get a wild card spot. I think Najee Harris does have a great season. He's in my top 10 rookie fantasy things that I'll share later. But they're going to be good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a tough division. I think, like you said, the Ravens are going to take a step back with losing Dobbins. I think it's going to be huge. And then the Bengals aren't quite there yet. So it's going to be a battle between the Browns and the Steelers.
Absolutely. So I've got the Titans, Steelers, Ravens, Browns. Actually, not even the Ravens. Titans, Steelers, Browns, Chiefs, Bills, and Pats making the playoffs. I think that's 6 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's going to be a fight between the Broncos and Pats for that last wild card. Is it 6 teams? Or last year they went with 7 teams. If it's 7 teams, then I think the Broncos make it in.
So yeah, I got the Bills, Chiefs, Browns, Titans winning their divisions, and the wild cards. I got the Steelers, the Patriots, and the Chargers.
So that's just going to be. I think the AFC is going to be so cool to watch this year. I really do. It's going to be a great conference. Why don't we talk about the NFC? Admittedly, the NFC North interests me, and the NFC East, the South and West, I've always been just because while the games are typically later, the teams don't excite me. So why don't we talk about the NFC? We'll start with the East. We got the Cowboys, Giants, Washington football team, and Eagles. Now that was the worst division in football last year.
One of the best divisions to watch this season.
Best divisions to watch. I don't think any of those teams really improved their record tremendously. The Washington football team is the team that won the division last year, if I'm not mistaken, right? They made the playoffs at 7-9. I believe it was them. Mike, can you check that out? I'm sure it was them, actually. No, was it the Cowboys? No. I think the Cowboys and Giants and Eagles just kept losing. But out of those three teams, the Cowboys, Giants, and Eagles, do any of those teams actually take a step forward this year and just get that division?
I got the Giants. I think the Giants take a good step forward. I think their defense is elite. I think their defense is right up there, one of the best in the league. I think. I think Daniel Jones has the ability and the skill sets to be very much the successes Josh Allen had. There's a lot of similarities there that I see, and I think that if he has the weapons now, so now you're bringing in a healthy Saquon, although he's not healthy right now. I think he might miss week 1, but if he's a healthy Saquon, that's a completely different story. Their offensive line, I think they added a couple pieces with some of the draftees and stuff, so that is getting better. With their receiving core, now you add a guy like Kadarius Toney to the mix. Again, he's a Florida guy, but he's one of these. Put him anywhere on the field, end arounds, that kind of stuff. Like he's another attention getter kind of thing. So I think the weapons are starting to come for Jones. And I think if he can be an effective offense, not an elite, just be effective and efficient, I think that the Giants are going to be – I have the Giants taking this division.
I have the Washington football team taking the division, although I think the Cowboys have the most talent.
Yeah.
Why Washington? Not because of Fitzpatrick. I think he's going to stabilize the position like he's done everywhere he's gone. But Terry McLaurin is a superstar, and Antonio Gibson, their running back, if he's healthy, and I know he's coming off one of those toe injuries he didn't get surgery for, so it's a pain tolerance thing now for him this season. But he is a fantasy football dream, right? Can catch, can run, he can do it all. And he's a nice player. He's got good size. He kind of reminds me of Le'Veon Bell, but he's got a little bit more quicks. So if they can finally put it together, have a good balance of run and pass and have a quarterback they can count on week in, week out without any questions, and they've already named Fitzpatrick the starter, I think that division is so bad that, Fitzpatrick could be just that extra incentive to push the needle Washington's way. So I don't see the Eagles making any strides. I think, Jalen Hurts going to have a tough year. I think
he's got one foot out the door. Like they're pushing, like just doesn't have that confidence. So either he takes that and rolls with it as like a chip on his shoulder, or it's going to weigh on you and you're just going to be like, look, I just want to get my week over with and trade me to somebody who wants me. Like you clearly don't. Yeah, that's going to weigh on him. Yeah,
absolutely. And like I couldn't add to what you said about the Giants. I think that's a team that's made some really good moves. I don't know if Joe Judge is the guy there. I mean, I think he's upset a few people with his hard style of coaching, but they're loaded. But
they're loaded. Like Kenny Golladay, Saquon, receiving Kenny Golladay and Sterling Shepard already. You put guys that are like a Julio Jones and AJ Brown, then you bring a Kadarius Toney somewhere around the mix, which is like Randall Cobb in his prime, Saquon Barkley. I mean, you got Evan Ingram, who's has hurt, from an ability standpoint, is one of these. I almost said Aaron Hernandez, but you know what I mean, like those kind of tight ends that are receivers. So Kyle Pitts kind of style. Kyle Rudolph still there is a questionable. Like there's a lot of weapons on offense, and their defense is already very good. So if they can, I don't know who their offensive coordinator is actually offhand, but if they can be an efficient offense, which they have all the talent on paper, they put it together, I think they could be actually really good this year.
It's going to be all on Daniel Jones because the pieces are there now. He's got no excuse. The pieces are there. Can he protect the ball? He's been known to throw very ill-advised, poorly timed interceptions. I mean, he's got to make that next stride with the pieces he has. He's got to take that next step.
Yeah, agreed. Eli used to do that too, but that's a New York thing.
Absolutely. Just to finish off the NFC East, I do think the Cowboys have the most talent. If Prescott is healthy, and look, I just read a report, just came across my path right now. that they're considering bringing in Cam Newton to back up. So they need some insurance for Prescott. I don't think they're sold on his health yet, but if he can be healthy and play at the level he's capable of playing, I mean, they've got the horses. They've got the guys that can make the plays, that can win that division. And you throw in a couple of rookies on defense that look really, really good in the preseason. I mean, their secondary to me is really the big question mark. So if they're going to be able to stop anybody is the question.
Micah Parsons going to be all over the field this year.
Yeah.
You know, Big Neville's got his second year or third year going in, I think now, but he's, established himself as a starter, and he's going to plug that middle. Again, it's on paper. What you got to know and got to be is a team. And, maybe Joe, Judge, Judy, whatever his name is, with those sprints and stuff like that, maybe it ends up paying dividends in terms of the bonding and the team building aspect.
Sure.
Does it bring them together? Because, again, football is the ultimate team sport. So there's a lot of salaries involved, a lot of whatever, a lot of characters. But if the Giants, if they buy in to this and kind of go as a team, I think that's going to be the difference maker. Yeah,
and I like I like that analogy. I think there was another coach in New York that had a bit of a hardline stance. Coach Coughlin was known to be a tough one, but it worked for them. It worked for them for 2 Super Bowls actually. So we'll see what happens. Let's move to the NFC South. This is a real sleeper. I think Tampa runs away with this because the Saints aren't going to be as good, in my opinion, although I think they're going to be better than people think. The Panthers, well, you're predicting them to be not so good with Sam Darnold. And then the Falcons, who everybody's disappointment. They have just not been the same since being up 28-3 at halftime in the Super Bowl. I read a report a few days ago online that they were celebrating. They were having a Super Bowl party at halftime, being up 28-3. And I think, they were having a party. They were popping the champagne, and they were already partying. And I think the coaches got involved, too. I mean, you're up 28-3. You're dominant. And they blew it.
In the locker room?
In the locker room at halftime of the Super Bowl. They have not been the same since. They have literally been terrible since. So I have no faith in the Falcons at all, although Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to be all-world at his position. I just don't see them even competing in that division with the Saints, let alone the Bucks. The Panthers.
Is this our Bill Buckner moment for the Falcons? Is this like when we're long gone and like Jackson and is on doing his show and he's like, the Falcons still haven't won. It's been 75 years since they partied at halftime.
Yes. This is like they jinxed themselves for the rest of my life probably, but I just then there was talent there for a couple of years. They just weren't able to put it together, and I think Matt Ryan. I think that he's been hit too much. He's got the jitters in the pocket. So, but the Panthers are a funny team. They picked up Sam Darnold. They moved on from Teddy Bridgewater. They're well coached. McCaffrey's
to back up McCaffrey too.
Yeah, I'm
Canadian.
I'm a big fan of the Panthers. I think the Panthers play good enough defense, and they're going to be able to run the ball on you, and they have weapons at the wide receiver. They can, you talk about Robbie Anderson taking the top off the defense. I think and obviously he's got familiarity with the Darnold. I think there's enough there for them to at least compete for a wild card beyond the Saints. And that's probably my wild card pick of this whole NFL season. I think the Panthers will fight for the wild card, and I think the Saints will take a step back.
You know what? You just brought up a good point. Darnold and Robbie Anderson with the familiarity.
Incomplete.
You know what they're familiar with? Yeah.
Losing.
Content, a losing attitude. Yeah. Incompletions, overthrowing, bad reads. Yeah. They're familiar. All right. I just don't think it's in a good sense.
I think he's going to play in front of a much better offensive line and a better coach and a system and an organization that's pretty solid, actually. I think it's just it's a healthier situation for Darnold, I think.
Anything's healthier than the New York Jets organization.
Jets fans are taking a beating from Brock today. That's amazing.
Yeah, Seb Lamar's a big Jets fan. My bad, but hey.
I am the one story I'm looking forward to watching, I think most of the NFL is looking forward to watching this year, is can Jameis Winston be a starting quarterback in this league with one of the best head coaches for quarterbacks in the NFL, and Sean Payton. So this is his chance to really prove himself. I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to be.
Bruce Arians supposed to be the quarterback whisperer too? And then he whispered to Jameis Winston, "Stop throwing interceptions." He didn't listen.
He threw enough touchdowns, though. It wasn't. I don't think it was a. But again, Bruce Arians style of play is just like if no risk it, no biscuit, or whatever. I mean, that's just like, that's
Michael
not.
Thomas not hurt too.
Michael Thomas is hurt. But I still think, with Kamara and their tight end situation, and I think they're going to be all right. I think Winston's going to play well enough. I don't think he turns the ball over. I think he's watched Drew Brees for a year. He's learned the system. I mean, I'd rather him than Taysom Hill or Mike Tyson Hill or whatever his name is. Yeah, exactly. So
Mike Taysom Hill. Yeah,
I don't know. I think the Saints will be the team. They're going to be interesting to watch. But I think the Panthers make the wild card. And of course, we haven't even talked about the Bucs. But what's there to say? They return everybody on defense.
Is it Limp Bizkit? Fred Durst rolling.
Yeah, they just brought in Giovanni Bernard's now in the backfield, who I've seen enough of in the NFC North for the last few years. It's a good team. It's a great team. Like you said, though, you brought up a good point. Can they keep it together in the locker room with the big egos like Antonio Brown? Will he be a deterrent, or will they just send him packing? Can Mike Evans stay healthy?
The Godfather's in there. Everybody buys in to what the Godfather is saying and what he's doing. And that's, again, you can hate on Tom Brady all you want. He's earned the right to where he is. And I have a more appreciation for Tom Brady as he gets older, and the commercials where he's making fun of himself and all that kind of stuff. But in the locker room, like, you go there because this is the guy. So you listen to what he says. If you're not buying into the system, normally the quarterback's not going to be one trading you, but Brady will trade you or will cut you.
Look, Godwin and Mike Evans are equally as good, and they've got that Scotty Miller. I mean, they've got weapons. They don't even need Brown. So if I was Brown, I would make sure I smarten up. I know he got into a little tussle in practice there a couple weeks ago, but Mike Evans to me is a lot like Keenan Allen in the AFC. Good start to the season, and then he gets hurt about 3/4 of the way in because he's a big guy. Quarterbacks throw up the middle to these guys. They put them in vulnerable situations, and come playoff time, he's just not healthy. I mean, he was playing on him too. He was playing on one leg all of the playoffs last year. So remarkable for Brady to even take that team without Mike Evans being a big factor. So Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, those are really big key pieces in their respective teams having success. I do think the Bucs will finish first in that division, and I think the Panthers are the only team that can sniff a wild card. Brock, you're not a big fan of the Panthers, so let's move on to the NFC West. This is an interesting this is a very interesting division. You got the Seahawks, Niners, Rams, and Cards.
Mm-hmm.
The Cards made some strides last year. Kyler Murray played well. Can they hang with the other three teams?
Yeah, they sure can. Yeah, I like Arizona. I have Arizona making it on a wild card side.
Okay.
I have the Rams taking that division. Actually, I have the Rams winning division, but I have Seattle and Arizona making wild cards. I think it's going to be one of the strongest divisions in the NFL this year.
Yeah, it's hard to argue because every team has improved. With Hopkins is a really huge addition there.
Hopkins,
Cards running game. James Conner has had a subpar offseason, subpar preseason. I keep saying offseason, preseason. Injury prone. I don't think he could be that bell cow that these teams want him to be. I don't think he's built like that. I think he's a good change of pace guy. He's got decent blocking skills, can catch the ball out of the backfield. But can they give Murray enough of a run game for him to be able to play action, roll out, and do the things that he's good at doing?
Well, they got Chase Edmonds, who is pretty good, but I think he's also slated for their starter. So Connor's not going to need to, again, he's going to an organization that isn't the Steelers, where it's not set on a bell cow type back. They're going to move him. They're going to mix him around. So hopefully, he lasts longer. He's not as banged up. But again, Chase Edmonds is their guy to start with. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I like the Seahawks winning this division. And AJ
Green. I forgot.
Yeah. I mean, AJ Green, that's a good spot for him too, right? Yes, it's funny how people feel better when they go play in the Arizona warmth and humidity and dryness or whatever it is in that stadium. It's great. It prolongs your career. But I think the Cards, sure, okay. But I do like the Seahawks just because Russell Wilson. I mean, he's the best quarterback in that division, if you ask me. And DK Metcalf is an absolute freak stud. He's built like a tight end, runs like a wide receiver. I mean, that team is going to be really good.
The stats through out of the same, whatever it is, 25 games or something like that between Megatron and DK, and DK's.
He's on pace.
Oh, he's beating him in all those categories.
Yeah. So for me, when you have the best quarterback and maybe the best wide receiver, no offense to Hopkins, but I do think DK Metcalf can do a little bit more down the field in terms of straight burn speed. I don't think Hopkins is that guy. I think Hopkins has got a little bit of everything. So I like the Seahawks winning that division. I think the Niners are going to be really, really tough. When you've got Garoppolo and Kittle and enough at the wideout position with an offensive line that they have, I wouldn't want to play that team. You know, and Bosa's coming back. He looks really healthy. The Niners are going to be making some noise in the wild card, and I don't think the Rams. I think the Rams take a huge step back this year.
Spiro agrees. The Niners all the way. He's a Niner fan.
Niners all the way. Okay.
You know what? All this discussion has really brought to the forefront on my mind. It has nothing to do with the show, but my fantasy team, Curtis and I, our fantasy team this year is going to be good. Everybody you've talked about. We got Dalvin Cook already, which we haven't talked about yet, but Gibson was the guy you brought up. Edwards was the guy you brought up. Kittles was the guy you brought up. DK Metcalf, a guy you brought up. Like all these guys are
healthy.
So,
hey, they're healthy.
We could make a run this year.
Give us the horn.
Give us the horn.
Yeah, I think the Rams have obviously they have the best player in the NFL as far as I'm concerned, Aaron Donald, but I don't think their quarterback is a winner. I just don't think he's got the winning DNA. And that trade, I think it's going to end up being a wash. I think both teams involved in that trade, it's going to end up being a wash, and we'll get to the lines in a second. So for me, I have the Seahawks and the Niners. Maybe the Cards, and I see the Rams sort of falling by the wayside. Sony Michel, they picked him up recently. I think it's going to help them a bit, but I just don't see it, man.
Cam Akers' loss was quite big. He was a guy that I was definitely going to make an offer for in the fantasy. I thought he was underpriced, undervalued, and had a lot of upside. So he's a guy that I know hurts the Rams roster pretty good. I have not a soft spot. I think Stafford had winning DNA. I think Detroit sucks that out of you. So you could be right in terms of where Goff and Stafford is but I think they remove that winning DNA when they get into the old codes. But I'm hoping, I don't know. I like the guy. Anybody who can put up numbers and not talk smack and want to get out of a situation like he was in Detroit for so long and embrace it, I respect it, and I want to see him do well in a good situation.
When the trade happened, we both said this is his year. I mean, you had good numbers in Detroit, but now you've got a team that's pretty good around you. This is your chance to shine, and if they finish 500, then it's the old the Bears who were they thought they were. That's exactly it. So this is his year.
I think he's a West Coast kid too. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like being out in that sort of like California weather and stuff, might help. Anyway,
sure. So
I got
the last division, which is going to be a very interesting one, if for any reason the Aaron Rodgers, the swan song, whether he stays after. I mean, it's not looking like he's going to be playing any more years with Green Bay after this year.
Right.
But we got Green Bay, the Bears, the Lions, and the Vikings. And I think the one team that everybody in that division should be concerned about, as far as I'm concerned, is the Vikings. They had a bad year last year. I think they got off to a slow start. They might have been 0-4 or 1-3 or something like that. And they just never dug out. But you talk about teams, Brock, that are built to win, built for the playoffs, good balance. I think about the Vikings. I think about, you brought up Dalvin Cook. You brought up Good offensive line. I think Cousins, he's at his best when you can go play action. And they didn't have a very strong year last year because he was running for his life. I think they have enough now. They got a second-year kid, is it Jefferson?
Justin Jefferson,
fantastic player,
drafted by our team.
Right. Well, guess what? With Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins, who's one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL, and he can send that ball downfield. I like that team. I think that team takes a step forward again this year after one bad year. I see the Lions being abysmal. Nothing to do with Goff. I'm not a fan of their coach. I don't think Dan Campbell. I don't think that rah cheerleader stuff works with grown men. It's the Bears, Packers, and Vikes, and I don't know who you got. I mean, it's an interesting. The Bears have improved. Is Andy Dalton the guy? When did they turn to Justin Fields? It's going to be an interesting. But the Bears have talent. And they are the Bears. If Khalil Mack, they're known. They're the Bears. They're known for their defense, and they win. Every year they win 3 or 4 games just based on their defense alone. Is it the Packs division to run away with, and the rest are just following them, or do the Vikes and Bears have an opportunity?
Honestly, I think the Bears take when he was drafted, I thought Justin Fields was a really good fit in Chicago. A kid who isn't afraid to get dirty and run and get those scrappy yards if he needs to. So I think they turned to Fields sooner than later. I'm thinking maybe game 3 kind of thing, 3 or 4. I think they turn over to Fields. Unless they're 4-0 or 3-1, maybe they stay with Dalton. I just don't think he's that guy. Ultimately, I think Aaron Rodgers is coming in. I want to say rejuvenated, fresh, but also like a fresh chip on his shoulder, and something to prove. And I think that, again, there's that talk of Carr, who played with Adams in college, saying that, I want to convince him to come to Las Vegas next year after this season, all that kind of stuff. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if you convince Adams to go to Las Vegas, you're going to be out of a job because Rodgers might follow him there. So he's not going to Vegas to be thrown to by you. But I think, Adams, I think Amari Rodgers is, although, we'll see what his development is like. He's a game player. And I think, if he can get into the lineup somewhere on a consistent basis, and Rodgers is going to make you a star, whether you like it or not, because he's going to throw the ball so hard at your face that you have no other option than to catch it. And then their running game is already good. I know Bakhtiari is going to be off. He's missing how many weeks? I don't know how many weeks, but he's got an ACL, so he starts the season on the PUP list. But otherwise, I think their linemen are good if they stay healthy. I think it is the Packers division, in my opinion. The Packers win that division. I don't know if it's running away, but I think that they're going to, they were good last year. I think they're going to be better this year. But I think the Bears is going to be the team that surprises more people than anything else. I actually feel the Bears might finish second in that division.
I like the Pack. Obviously, the Pack. I think they were maybe a bad call away from making it to the Super Bowl last year. A bad call plus an ill-advised pass when he could have run it in. I mean, they should have been in the Super Bowl. They should have been the NFC representative for the Super Bowl. Giving up that big play to Tom Brady right at the half also didn't help. I mean, they were there. They should have been the Super Bowl representative, and they would have won. I think they would have beaten the Chiefs. But I think the Vikings are going to take a few steps forward again this year. Again, it was a bad year, but the year before they were in the playoffs. I always like the Vikings. I'm a big fan of their head coach. I think he's a no-nonsense guy.
Who's their head coach?
Oh man, his face.
Yeah. Anyway,
he wore the eye patch for a year. My God, he was in Cincinnati for a few years. Mike Zimmer. Oh,
hey, good job. Yeah, I knew his face.
Yeah. And I don't see the Bears making any progress with Andy Dalton. I think he's going to be a good mentor for Justin Fields. I think if they put in Fields too quickly, the preseason is one thing, but when you get into real time and you got guys like Zadarius Smith and those guys, Preston Smith, and the pack blitzing you, you're in trouble, man. And he got his head knocked off by Buffalo in one of those preseason games.
That was an offensive lineman problem there.
Exactly. When they got problems on the offensive line, just ease him in. Let him sit for the year and learn. Bring him in next year. I don't see the Bears making any kind of noise this year, but their defense is good. We'll see what happens. Just to wrap this up, let's recap. So in the AFC, you have the Pats winning the Bills winning division.
Yep.
Chiefs.
Yep.
Titans.
Yep.
And Browns.
Yep.
And then your wild cards are Chargers.
Yep.
Pats.
Yep.
And Steelers.
Correct.
Okay. This is just for the record. I have the Steelers, Titans, Chiefs, and Bills. And my wild cards are the Pats, Broncos, and Brownies. So we're pretty close. We just switched off the Browns and Steelers. Yeah. In the NFC East, you have the Giants.
Correct.
You have the Bucks in the South.
Yep.
You have the Cards winning the NFC
the
West? Rams winning the NFC West.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the Pack. Okay.
Correct.
I have the Pack. I have the Bucks. I have the Washington football team.
That was my other choice.
And the Seahawks.
All right.
Wild cards. I got the Vikes. I got the 49ers. And I got the Panthers sniffing the wild card. You have
Seattle, Washington, and the Cardinals.
So we're pretty much, we're pretty much bang on outside of the NFC West. So, you know what, we're too sportsmanlike for this show, man. We gotta turn it up a little bit.
I only threw the Steelers in there because I want to maintain our friendship.
Well, folks, I hope that was entertaining and informative. I think Brock and I are pretty knowledgeable dudes when it comes to the NFL as a whole. It's going to be a great season with fans back in the stands. Let's hope there's no COVID outbreaks. I know that these teams are like 80, 90% vaccinated, but, it doesn't prevent a team from actually getting COVID. Let's just hope and pray that, we don't lose any players and games to COVID. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of COVID. I'm done.
Yeah. Get your shots, get whatever you got to do. I think all these arenas are opening up for, you got to be fully vaccinated stuff to even attend. So, the pressure's on there. There's a lottery in Quebec. I think if you're vaccinated, you can be down to try and win.
I entered.
So I don't know who wrote this. You're going to come play around with us sometime, bud, but I'm assuming that's sorry, Pep. There you go.
Come play around with us sometime, bud.
That's golf. So yeah, I'm down. I don't know who that is, but I will play golf. I love golf.
Cool.
Really quick. Actually, we'll talk about my fantasy rookie picks another time. Are you frozen? Are you with me?
No.
Okay, perfect. Just literally, I'm looking at you, and then thank God. Yeah, okay, we'll do that another time. We'll talk fantasy. So I made a list of top 10 rookies I thought would be fantasy impact players. College football starts this week, like real college football starts this week. So on Thursday, there's a dozen games on Thursday that you guys can turn into. Actually, there's one on Wednesday too, but it's not worth anything. Coastal Carolina, who's ranked 22nd, is playing on Thursday. That would be one to tune in just to see if they're even legit anymore. Ohio State, Minnesota is probably one of the other games that would be interesting to watch on Thursday. Friday, North Carolina at Virginia Tech. If nothing else, if you guys can get that channel, it starts at 6 p.m. I'm hoping Virginia Tech is one of those bucket list ones where they do the Enter Sandman at nighttime.
Oh, I like that.
It is. Anyway, it's goosebumpy to say the least. North Carolina should be really good. They're ranked 10th. That's your Friday game. Then Saturday is the one you want to tune into. My Gators play, but it's Florida Atlantic, so it's not a huge thing. But Penn State, Wisconsin play at 12 o'clock. That's a ranked game. They got Indiana, Iowa at 3:30, which is another ranked game. Then you got Alabama at Miami, Florida,
Oh,
which is
I
a
like
huge
the
game.
U, man. I like the U.
They're ranked 14 right now, preseason ranked 14. Their quarterback, King, is getting a lot of attention from Heisman talk and stuff too. I mean, there's a lot of history there, from the teams in the 80s and stuff like that. So
Bernie Kosar, baby. Bernie Kosar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of all those players, you're going to throw Bernie Kosar. But anyway, listen, it's almost a disgrace. Anyway, that's Bama at Miami at 3:30, which is going to be very good. And then there's a game, Georgia Clemson at 7:30 is a game.
Georgia.
Georgia's ranked 5th, Clemson ranked 3rd. That's a game you tune in for, people. And then actually on the Sunday is Notre Dame at Florida State. I think Notre Dame takes it fairly easily, but hopefully Florida State comes and actually puts on their pads for once in their life and stands up to Notre Dame. The hell with them. Anyway,
hey, you know what? They might come out
Saturday, Sunday.
They might come out and play an emotional game for Coach Bowden. You never know, right? Sometimes those divine intervention. We'll see what happens.
I know. I mean, He was Coach Bowden, but he wasn't coach at Florida State for the last. Well, Chris and I were at his last game, which was 2010, maybe 9 or 10.
Jeez, anyway, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
The percentage of these. Hey, shout out to what the hell they're called? The team that suckered ESPN into
the Bishop Sycamores.
Sycamores. Woo-hoo! I saw high school. Oh my God.
I saw a meme that they had Cam Newton in a jersey, Bishop Sycamore jersey. What a great story.
Take a look up and look up that thing. They played ESPN nationally televised the game between this Bishop Sycamore and IMG, which is one of the best prep schools in the country.
And the Sycamore won 58 zip, didn't they?
They did not. They lost 58-0.
Oh, they lost. Okay.
Oh, yeah. And all these kids that are on there are either high school dropouts, or a lot of them were in junior college already. They're not even eligible for scholarships and stuff. The head coach has got a warrant for his arrest somewhere. The address, if you Google Map it, takes you to like somebody's house. Like it's absolutely insane. They bamboozled some third party company that like set up this matchup.
Oh man,
and there's
I read that.
Oh, there's announcers talking. They're like, well, and it's during the game. It's 30-0 already IMG, and they're like, well, they got 5 D1 recruits, I guess. And like, we'll take the word for it. Like, we don't know who any of these kids are, and all of our research for nothing. Like, they're just kind of like, we got to stop this game because people are going to get hurt, even if it was that bad. But
hey, I read that story. I was in hysterics. And speaking of hysterics, if you have a chance tonight, if you're bored, or tomorrow, and you want a funny clip. Look up the Washington football team's last preseason game. Clinton Dix got an interception, and it was the local announcers, the Washington announcers. And when he got the interception, the one guy goes ha, and then the other guy does the Roadrunner ha. It was priceless. Clinton Dix. I don't even know if that's his real. I think it's his real name. It might be short for something, but anyway, he now plays for the Washington football team, and he got an interception at the safety position. And I was just like, it was quick. It's not like won't have you rolling around crying funny, but it was good.
Well, we've gone over because my notification snooze is over. I haven't snoozed for a certain time.
Yeah, we're 23 minutes overdue. But hey, you know what? NFL, baby, we do this once a year, so we're fine. We're good.
NFL season starts. I'm right into it. It's also been 20 years since this young lady passed, Aaliyah. So we're going out to Aaliyah. Try again.
Nice.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Till next week. Pep, I think, is off again, but we'll be back. We'll be talking some college football for sure.
What would you do to get to me? What would you say to have your way? Would you give up or try again? If I hesitate to let you in, now would you be yourself or play a role?
If anybody wants hats, hit me up. I got 2 of them for sale. Or giveaway, whatever.
Turn away or play me off, or would you stay up? First you don't succeed. Dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again. I'm into you, you into me, but I can't let it go so easily. Not till I see what this could be eternity or just a week. But your chemistry is off the chain. It's working now, but will it change? This ain't a yes, this ain't a no. Just do your thing, we'll see how it goes. Oh, first you don't succeed. Yeah. Dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. First you don't succeed. Ooh, dust it off and try again, try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again. So you don't wanna throw it all away. I might be shy on the first day. What about the next day? Say you don't wanna throw it all away. You're bugging on the first day. What about the next day? And if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again, try again. And if at first you don't succeed, yeah, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, again. If at first you don't succeed, oh, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again. If at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, baby, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again, again.
We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat. Step two, step two, step two, step two, step two, step two. Been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a dope beat. Step two, step two, step two, step two, step two, step two, step two.
Don't succeed. Dust yourself off and try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try again.
Been a long